What I did want to point out, though, I wanted
I
to
hate
get you
this
guys'
look, by the way.
thoughts
This look
on
you
this
have on the
look.
screen,
Yeah,
I hate this look.
I wanted your thoughts. First of all, why is this guy sagging? Secondly,
it's the
the collaboration.
Technically, it's the new look, but he took it from the streets. It's like happening in New York a lot, where people wear like the old bloomers. Like, you remember boxers where they were like really baggy, like, and then you wear your belt, and it's like you wear 2 pairs of jeans. But I've never really seen them take from the street and then pull it in. You know what I'm saying?
No, he's not. They did the
Isn't that his MO?
And they got
that's his MO.
But he influences the street as well as takes from it, right? But it's like, this one is like a look I've seen on Instagram already. Like, this is literally someone's look. Like, I think I can see someone walking out on the streets of New York with their Jordans in hand. Like, that is what I see when I see this look.
Yeah, he has done the sagging thing before. Yeah, Keezy, you're right. I just don't understand why he
that
does
pair
it,
was
though.
tough. I can't lie. That last pair was tough. But you got cooked.
And what do you think about? Because obviously they collaborated with Under Armour, and some of the pieces are later in the collection.
Under Armour are down horrendous right now. Under Armour are down bad.
Did you look at their financials, Micah?
Yeah, bro.
What the financials looking like?
Well, the stock's down like significantly, and I think, I don't know. I just see it as them being down bad because I don't think any of the ideas are interesting. Everything they have here for the collab is the same that they did with Adidas. They just swapped out the logo. Like, do you know what I mean? If you pull up, go on. I think there's a pair of like cotton tracksuit, and it's literally exactly the same as the Adidas one, just with the Under Armour logo instead of
the oversized ones, right?
Yeah. Like, it's exactly the same. The wash, the fit, everything.
But
so I wouldn't be surprised if they just used the same pattern. They took the same pattern at the studio. They said, "Oh, let's just whip this up again, but embroider a different logo.
Run it with the new logo."
Do you know what I will say though? Because every season since Demno started this sort of like formulaic thing, there are always track jackets and like sweatpants and hoodies in every collection. And I think in the context of doing those looks with a sportswear brand as a collaboration, I think it makes more sense than Balenciaga making like track jackets in the Manchester United colors, and it just looks odd.
The thing
or
is,
making like football jerseys that look like fake United jerseys is just a bit weird.
I think it makes more sense, but it's as equally as hard. Like, if you look at like any rapper, they're already rocking the full Balenci tracksuit with or without the Adidas logo, or with
with the black gloves and everything.
Do you know what I mean? So like, talking about, even though it might come across as more authentic when you've done it in collaboration with the actual sportswear brand, I don't think it makes it any more cool or less cool. Like, as far as like customers and consumers are concerned.
Okay, like it's the same. There's no difference.
My fault with not to cut you off, Henry. My fault with the Under Armour collab. It's like, okay, them not done the Reebok one prior, right?
And Adidas.
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I said I remember the Reebok one. Let me look it up.
Reebok was a while ago. I even know he did Reebok with Vetements. That was like I remember that. He did Reebok with Vetements. That was a long time ago.
Yeah. So I was just thinking, right, because it would really, really make more sense if he did one with On Running or Asics.
I don't think there was a Reebok one, guys, with Balenciaga.
With Balenciaga, I don't remember that, but I thought he was talking about the Vetements one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, my bad.
I'm talking about Demna himself, right? So like, and because I was thinking, because when I was looking, I was like, why wouldn't you do one with On Running? Like, they're really red hot right now. People like on the ground love that brand, right? Like, literally, I see it. And
running clubs are huge.
At least with a certain demographic, I see it everywhere, right? And then, is there something to be said about him working with, like, let's say, brands that aren't doing so well? Because in the time he done the Adidas collab, Adidas was not doing well at all as well.
One, Adidas haven't been doing well for how long now? Like,
they came off the easy thing. And,
in fact, no. We're lying. To be fair, we're lying. Actually, when he did the Adidas one, Adidas was still up. They were still up.
No, but you remember, Micah. Remember. Part of the Balenciaga scandal was the Adidas campaign.
Yeah, so it was rolling out. But in terms
campaign.
of like when they'd signed the contracts and probably made.
No. That
Adidas was still good. Adidas was still good. That's my point.
But by the time they were ready to sell it, it was collapsed because the campaign was part of the scandal.
And isn't that just after the Kanye stuff? Like, if I'm
no, it's at this. It was I remember it really clearly.
Time.
It was
everything was a bit shaky. So like, I agree with you in part, Michael, but at the same time, like, just the timelines were just too close. You know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those things. But I was just thinking, yeah, like that was just my thought. I was like, why doesn't he work with like red hot brands
rather than even someone who's on the decline?
Before all of this like madness was happening, right? It's like On Running,
Facts, Billy,
Holker, all of these things, like it's like one of those things where I was just like, because obviously when you talk about demographics, right, that is partly who wears Holker or On Running.
Yeah.
Is like there's cross pollination there. And then I was just thinking, why would you do one with like Under Armour? And I can, so I was confused.
Especially when you
have the conversation with you guys.
To kind of jump off that point, especially when you consider that a lot of Demna's Balenciaga is really, even since Vetements, to be honest, and he continued that Balenciaga, it's a commentary on what people are wearing on the street and like
versus kind of luxury.
Exactly. So it's kind of like where that balance is. So considering his work literally as a commentary on what's going on in pop culture, on the internet, on TikTok, what people are wearing on the streets, that would kind of lean into, you know, working with brands that are associated with this new running craze and running boom and all these running clubs that are opening up. So that would be a big thing. And considering every season anyway, he does this sort of athleisure thing, that's such an easy way to tie into it. But of course, Under Armour is not really associated with all those things right now.
Not at all. I mean, I looked it up. Their stock has been down bad for a hot second now. And I feel like this is doing more for them potentially than maybe it even is for Balenciaga, depending on how the deal is split.
Yeah.
I mean, just to jump in on this, sorry. Like, do we feel that, do Balenciaga have the pull? Like, does an On Running want to work with Balenciaga? Like, you see them working with, say, Post Archive Faction, like that shoe's strong. The Loewe stuff strong. And I'm like, surely there is a reason why it's not happening, because why, in a nutshell, why would you want to work with a brand that, like Micah said, is down bad? Like, what is that? There's no benefit really to Balenciaga in some ways. There's no mutual benefit there. Under Armour.
Okay, I see. Are you saying that perhaps the only benefit is that Under Armour are the only people who are actually willing to work with Balenciaga?
I don't know. It seems bizarre to say that because they are still Balenciaga. Like, we cannot.
I guess that any brand that works with them is basically jumping in front of a line of fire, because you're gonna have followers of your brand come to you and say, "Hey, why are you working with this scandal brand?" I don't want to say words, but so if you feel like you guys are already doing well and you're just not in the mood to be dealing with a whole onslaught of people in your comment section, I hear it. Maybe I hadn't considered it from that perspective, but I hear it. Maybe it's just a lot of brands aren't looking to work with Balenciaga right now.
And it's like I said, like a lot of these brands are just playing it safe right now. So why do you want to jump in front of a potential issue and potential reason for your customers to not buy from you anymore? Like, you need to make sure that they stay happy, like they stay on the bandwagon, like, yay, I'm running so good, we love wearing them all the time. You don't want to give them a reason to be like, hang on, I don't really like this connection. I don't really want to be a part of this.
That's so tense though, because like, to be fair, an authentic On Running collab makes more sense than, you know, because it's just part of the way that Demna works to work with these particular brands. So it's like,
yeah, for sure,
that would make sense. But if they were in a good place, obviously today, yes. But what's it? Who did On Run have the collab with again? Was it Loewe?
Yeah, they've done Loewe, they've done Post Archive Faction.
Yeah, so it's like Loewe doesn't seem like, as much as I love Loewe. That's not what. Well. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, exactly. Kicking there, like it's bad. It's bad.
There might be contractual agreements on those things, because
that's what I meant when I said it. I meant contractually they probably just can't.
Yeah, because if Loewe have already worked with them, then obviously Kering can't, because that's
And LVMH are very particular about that kind of stuff. Like making
sure. Finn, if you want to hop on the live, that would be great. If you want to talk about how a lot of the collabs work behind the scenes, because Finn works in the industry, so it'd be great to get his insight.
Sick.
I'll post the link, Finn, if you want to join.
What else? Yeah, no.
There was a really good comment, by the way. Someone from Ukraine was saying that Under Armour is quite frequently wearable in post-Soviet countries. Logo and brand in this case also has a wearable set of values, that is a very strong point, because a lot of Demna's work, I guess less so at Balenciaga, but especially at Vetements, was very much looking at like post-Soviet styles and like what people are wearing in Georgia, and like referencing like Georgia and Ukraine, and even some like Balkan countries too, like the Serbias and stuff, like what they wear there. So in a way, that's actually a really strong point, because obviously we do have to remember that Demna's inspiration point, yes, it does come from pop culture and kind of what's going on in the present moment, but it's also sometimes he looks to reference kind of where he grew up and kind of what people are wearing there now, what people wore there in the past, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it because I didn't have the facts on that, but that was part of my point. Unless it's war there, then that's the only reason I see it happening, to be fair. But yeah, it's good to know that at least there's some connection there.
Is Finn hopping on? Because I'm mad curious to see what.
Yeah, I want to get this insider info. Like,
give
us the goss.
Finn, we want the gossip.
Get in here, man.
Because I guess a crucial piece of information would be like how long in advance this sort of stuff is sorted out. Although I don't think it's that long, but we'll find out, I guess.
You never know with these things. It can either be something like case by case.
Yeah,
it might just be. You could argue that maybe this has been in the works for time, and it's just that now it's finally come to fruition, or maybe they have them on some sort of setup where they just pick and choose these sportswear brands and go like, your time to shine is now.
Well, they
okay, Finn's here. Let's see. Hello, Finn.
Hello.
Hiya, how are you?
Hello.
I'm not turning on the video because I look grim.
That's all right.
But yeah, I just want to say, because like you were talking about like case by case, like depending on how long things take. It really depends on what type of collab you've bought into as a brand. So, in the case of Balenciaga with Under Armour, Balenciaga have bought the rights to it. It's a licensing deal.
Yep.
So, same with Adidas.
Under Armour didn't have to do anything, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So Under Armour didn't do anything.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and it really just depends on the type of collab that you go into. So, here, like on that look, that which is the tracksuit track bottoms look. The only thing that Under Armour would have produced is the shoes.
Sold.
Right.
So it's more or less Balenciaga having access to use the logo.
Yeah, that's what licensing is.
Yeah. So I was working at a brand and we had a Lonsdale collaboration last year, and basically they reached out to us and were like, "Look, we want you to do a Lonsdale collaboration." And we were like, yeah, absolutely fine. And the first thing you have to ask as a brand is, can we do anything with that brand? Like, so depending on where their strengths are in the market. So Lonsdale, it's like base layers, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really, that's where I see Under Armour the most. But Lonsdale was the shoes. So,
right.
for us, we weren't allowed to fuck with the boxing style Lonsdale shoes. So the only thing we could do is go into the archive and pick out over the knee boxing boots, and then we added, like, I think one of the looks had like diamantes like attached to them randomly, right? And that was the most they would let us do with the shoes, because Lonsdale shoes are what keeps the business alive.
Right.
But then when it came to the clothes, they were like, you can do anything and slap a logo on it.
But to me, in a way, Finn, it almost doesn't make sense, because, okay, let's say Lonsdale, like, that's what keeps the business alive. If you have a collaboration with a brand and they just like switch up the shoes a bit, it's not going to change your like your outcome, because it's going to be made in a very small quantity anyway, and it's only going to be seen amongst a fashion specific audience.
But I'll give you some background on collabs, right, as well, on that very question. Is like Asics have been very, very popular, and the reason why they've been very popular with collabs is they began with Kiko. Kiko proved that there was a market for this street, like, we call it street style, but it's not even street style, it's just fashion sneakers. And once he did that, and the first couple of shoes he did was just archive shoes and new colors. And then what he then did was like, actually,
they allowed him to make his silhouettes, right?
He allowed him to make his silhouette.
Yeah.
And if you look at the GmbH, the Chipova Lavena, and even the Marc Jacobs ones, right? Their existing shoes in new colors. The Marc Jacobs ones was a collaboration with Kiko and Asics to allow them to do a new sole.
Right.
So it's really down to the trust of the shoes, because Asics obviously trust Kiko to a point where they gave them the funding to open a store in Japan. Like, to do as much sort of exploration and development as they want. But these brands don't want to spend the money. So I'll give you the example of Lonsdale. So we did that Lonsdale show. They paid like 50% of the show as like a thanks for using our name. And then when it came to production, bear in mind, I worked for a brand with really small, Jordan Luca. Like, this was like quite a highly anticipated launch. Everybody was asking about the launch. Retailers, like our wholesale, people were putting in pre-order for this launch. And when it came down to it, Lonsdale was just like, we're not producing that.
Sold.
That's up to you. You bought the name. So it's only people like Balenciaga who can do these licensing deals to this point where it's like, I'm going to slap Under Armour on this and call it a collab. And like, you know, I always think about the Prada collab. Do you remember that Prada Adidas collab?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Weird collab.
It was a shocking collab.
Yeah.
And they're always like, oh, these superstars were made in the Prada factories.
Right? What were they calling it? Pradidas. They were calling it Pradidas.
Yeah, Pradidas. And it was like, oh, they're made with leather instead of like the normal canvas. And it was like, okay.
Yeah, so actually, that is one of the first collabs that Adidas allowed another factory to produce their shoes.
Right.
Oh. Interesting.
And that's ironic, because the polar opposite happened with Jound. With the Jound collab, where they did the Sambas purely in leather, that was the marketing they did for that was, oh, we've made them at the like official Adidas factory. Like, they're all handmade here and allegedly. So it's funny that for the Prada one, Prada worked on the shoe, but for the Jound one, it was Adidas who did it.
Yeah, no, totally. And the last thing, and then I can jump off or whatever, is that you were talking about Loewe and On Cloud shoes. The On running shoes. Like, the reason why Loewe is doing so well with On, and I only know this because of people who work there, is because J.W. Anderson will only do collabs with people that he has to do the minimum amount of work. And that's not in a bitchy way. That's in a, like, he just changes them enough so that the audience feels like they're luxury. Like, if you think about his Uniqlo collab, it's creating a narrative around very basic, boring clothes. And it's the same with his On collab. His, like, the people that are buying,
it's just the Loewe thing slapped onto the shoes, right?
Yeah, it's Loewe On, and then it's exclusive colors, but it's always just 6 months before the official launch of that new sole. And that's kind of how they do these collabs. And this collab, actually, the one that dropped like last month with On and Loewe, is the first time they've done ready to wear on that scale, and that was made by On. So I can tell you for now, they are all predetermined shapes that On has already designed, and then Loewe have just picked the color,
which is pretty standard procedure, I feel like, in footwear.
Yeah, definitely. I just think when people think, oh, this collab's really shit, like, these brands don't want to fuck with stuff that sells. You know, or like in the case of Balenciaga, like, we know that he loves, like, in a British sense, it's a bit chavvy, it's very 90s, it's very like Novacek vibes, and then they know that's what he's gonna do. He's gonna do a tracksuit, he's gonna do wide sweatpants. Like, it's pretty, like, when they did that Adidas collaboration, we all knew what was coming out before it came out.
Oh yeah, of course.
Do you know what I mean?
I can't lie. I feel like it was more interesting. It's one of the more interesting collabs they've done by a long way.
But it just looked like stuff that he makes before with Adidas branding on it. So that's what he means by, like, we kind of knew what to expect.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, Under Armour only came about, and there's actually 16 other looks that got cut from this show that are Under Armour. And
what, same sort of vibe, just with a logo?
It's actually all base layers.
Just like base layers, sweatpants.
So it really went heavy on the base layers, and it was all like his cat suits and whatnot. Because basically, this is what I've heard internally, is that Kim Kardashian showed Demna Ozempic, and then he started going on an Ozempic trend, and then went to the gym, and he's lost like 20 pounds, right, or 30 pounds.
No way.
And he's been going to the gym, and the only thing he found comfortable was Under Armour. And he reached out to, and this is not like some PR shtick. This is
you're lying,
that, like, works.
That's
too funny, man.
That's insane. That's insane. That's insane.
Yeah, so that's why Under Armour came about. It's literally just because Demna was going to the gym.
Bro.
Everybody's on the Ozempic, man.
Oh my god.
If you look at him from last year's netball and this year's netball, completely different human.
Shout out to Ozempic, man.
That's crazy.
Second week in.
Anyway,
that was everything I had to say about collab.
Yeah.
No, thanks, Finn.
No, that's cool.
Are you going to stay with us longer?
We love that. We love that.
Or are you going to flee now?
I mean, I'll stay in the back. I'll put myself on mute.
We love Finn's insights. Oh, Billy, they also use these collabs to test out new shapes before they do a general release to gauge market appetite. Micah, do you remember when this was a really, really commonplace thing? So I'll give you examples. Before the Vapor Maxes were like released, they had the Comme des Garçons collab, right? And then when they saw that it sold like hotcakes, then immediately they released like the Vapor Maxes and like in the same exact shape.
I think it depends on the brand. Because
I think it doesn't happen with every brand.
Are a lot more predatory with it than others. I think some brands let you go and design or at least tweak a silhouette, and then if it does well, the brand will just take it for themselves afterwards. Because we've seen Nike and Converse do that a few too many times.
The Run Star hype.
Yeah. Remember the JW Anderson shebang?
He was having none of that.
He was not happy. He was not happy. Maybe that's the reason why JW Anderson doesn't want to do a lot of the work on it now, because he's been burnt.
It is.
That's rightfully so as well, though. Exactly. They stole his whole swag, and they still sell it to this day.
Bar for bar. They did
there's a guy.
The homework, innit?
There's a guy at Dover Street Market. Well, actually, no, he's been fired, and he was working in the basement, and he was in his 40s, right? And you looked at him, and you were like, "Who the fuck are you?" And he used to consult Comme des Garçons in Japan whilst he worked at Dover Street about the different collabs. He would like do market research of what was selling in store.
Oh, wow.
Because he was an collector of, like, you know, when like in the 90s when people used to collect sneakers, do you know what I mean? Like, and he was part of the like garage scene and whatever, so he had like a different perspective on it. And he had all this collection, and when they started doing this night collaboration, he was in it from the start, but he didn't want to move to Japan, so he just consulted on it. What's really interesting is, like, Io, you made like the astute point, which is like, the Vapor Max was already designed in-house by Nike, and they said to Com, do you want to launch it?
Yeah, exactly.
And then, you know, when you see the reissues of like older shoes, and you're like, especially with Com, like sometimes they're really disappointing collabs. Because you're like, these aren't even interesting, like they're just Oreo colored or whatever. And but what they actually do is, as a team, they take it out stitch by stitch. So they break the shoe down, and a lot of the time the shoes have been repadded differently and stuff. And
yeah, that was very Com.
Like very Com, but also with Nike in particular, they're not allowed to change the shoe very much, like at all. And there's
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, I've got a pair of low dunks from them from 2019, which has like printed on them, and it was the first time a dunk had been fucked up, as in like quote unquote fucked up to that point. And it was literally just like a thin layer of plastic, right? And these shoes were made out of like plastic. And the Com team had to do a really, really, really small release at the beginning because Nike were like, it's never going to sell. It's never going to sell. We can't fuck up like an Air Jordan or whatever, or dunk. Like, people would be angry. But obviously, people that collect dunks and like Jordans and stuff, they want different things.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's why they tended so well.
Yeah, exactly. And then
I don't understand these brands. It's almost like they think backwards. Like
they do.
It's just kind of like what you were saying about the like what these brands say. It makes no sense. Like when they were saying, like Lonsdale, for example, they're like, okay, so these shoes kind of like are our best sellers, so we rely on it. So we don't want you to change the shoe, which to me makes no sense because a fashion brand is going to sell it in tiny quantities. The only people that are really going to see it is a fashion specific crowd. So if anything, you're just going to make the brand hot within a certain crowd of fashion. And that crowd of fashion normally influences the trend.
Yeah.
So it normally trickles down from the fashion crowd, what celebrities wear, and then it trickles down to like everyday people. So if you can actually capture people in the fashion space in a crazy way, you capture everyone.
Exactly.
And so the idea that they think you shouldn't change it because it's so backwards. It's so backwards.
And I don't think the public know how little these brands, like, I'm not talking about like the sportswear brands. I'm talking about brands themselves actually produce.
Yeah.
Like Balenciaga, the only thing they produce is shoes. Their ready to wear is like two pieces, if they're lucky, of each thing in store.
Yeah.
Like they do not make as much as people think they do. And it is crazy when you start looking at their stock figures, and like even when you're working for a tiny brand like Jordan Luca, right? Like these small brands, even Charles Jeffrey, and one of the reasons why
accessories, right?
Yeah, but it's not even that. But they can't even make MOQs, minimum order quantities. With if you think of who's the guy that just sold his brand to Tomorrow,
Samuel
Wall, right? Yeah. Part of the reason why I left was because A, he sold too much of his brand, and he didn't have like full control, which he wanted. But two, a lot of the stuff he wanted to produce, stores weren't buying, so they were making like 20 of them. And you can't fulfill a minimum order quantity with a factory with 20. Like a lot of these factories want minimum 200.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It'd be really interesting with a lot of like the public to know how much like even Balenciaga doesn't make that much product, and they still have these huge flash fire sales for staff that are like everything 90% off, and you're like, this isn't even like, you haven't produced that much. You've made 100, like you've made 1,000 t-shirts because you thought this one t-shirt graphic was going to sell really well. And, and it hasn't.
Sorry, that's what I was alluding to earlier. That a lot of the reason they can even get away with that, and then at the end of the year they still say, "Oh, we made 8 billion this year," is because a lot of their profit is from accessories. It is from having an it bag
and things like cosmetics and stuff.
Yeah,
obviously is the big money maker because those they do sell in like crazy quantities.
Yeah,
no, that's interesting.
Dami, you made a really good point about Kering in general, which was like, Kering is not doing hot right now. But actually, if we look at Balenciaga as an isolated incident, right, I only know the American figures because of stuff, but like America are back to pre-pandemic figures, pre-scandal figures, sorry. Right, and they have been since Christmas.
Yeah. Isn't that generally the same thing with D&G as well?
Like, D&G don't care.
Moves.
Yeah.
Americans don't care about whatever.
D&G from
fashion
my perspective is doing very well.
Oh, really?
D&G are doing very well.
Oh yeah.
They're not
Henry would know too, because Henry, you're a buyer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Correct. So that's interesting. That's really
those are some good points, though. Shout out to Finn.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to say something though to what I said about the brands being backwards. That the only thing I will offer to that is that generally these like brands, if you want to call them that, right, are beholden to shareholders. Now,
yeah, I was thinking that
someone has to pay, with their job sometimes, with the bad stuff that happens. So like when we look at Adidas and all of the bad stuff that happened to them after, using Kanye, like Kanye was great for them for the time he was there, but then he was not so great for them.
Yeah, like, someone definitely lost their job over that stuff.
And this is the other thing, right? And then we see the corporate reshufflings in like
Gucci. There was huge reshuffle.
Yeah, so and it's like that's people paying for the bad things that have happened with their jobs. Like we think, oh, why is everyone playing musical chairs in the industry at the top levels? It's like stuff's not going well, and somebody's paying for it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, as much as they should like innovate in quotes, right? In some certain instances, doing small tests and like little installations and like all of these like okay, let's test it in this market first. It's like, it's obviously everything that you guys have spoke about, but then also it's like, yo, I'm not trying to lose my job over this because I thought this was cool. Like hundreds of thousands / millions of people have to think this is cool for us to do this. So yeah, it's interesting though.
But I think they also just don't, because okay, this is why like I consult with brands, right? Because they just don't know. Like they actually don't know. Like I'll go into an exec meeting at Nike and everyone's like 50 years old.
Yeah.
So they just don't know. And they're not involved in fashion either. Yeah, like they just don't know. So that's the thing.
They don't know anything.
And people don't talk about the fact that, Tomorrow Group.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it's doing so well, like these new brands, whatever. By the way, no brand under Tomorrow is happy. I've not signed an NDA, but no brand under Tomorrow is happy.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. So wait, let's think of the Tomorrow: Charles Jeffrey, Martine Rose,
none of them happy.
Oh wow.
None of them happy. Nor's Machine A. I don't care. Like I have left the industry now for a bit. I'm happy. But
yeah, but don't get any lawsuit because of a YouTube live stream.
I'm not naming names. I'm not going to name names, but all I would say is the female who consulted for Balenciaga, who is now at Tomorrow, she wants to leave her own brand.
So,
wow.
And I will say that the Scottish dude who is having a 10-year anniversary, the only reason why he's happy being there is he's the only one out of the whole portfolio that was smart enough not to sell a majority stake to Tomorrow.
Right.
And just quickly before you go in, Dammy, did you know that Tomorrow is minority owned by only the brave?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they're the biggest investor into Tomorrow.
Yeah, so I just wanted to list some brands. So it's Bianca Saunders, GmbH, what's it called?
The ones like Charles Jeffrey, Martine Rose,
Otterlinger, and Rojas.
Yeah. By the way, some of them are incubators and some of them are owned. There's a big difference.
Yeah. I'm looking at the ones that are like, the own ones, but then there's the originals.
That's it. The originals ones that are owned by them.
Yeah, that's Coperni, Charles Jeffries of Cold War, and Martine Rose. Those are the ones.
Finn, this comment is for you.
Look, I've worked at too many places. They know they should have signed an NDA. Look, they know. I used to go to fashion events, and I'd be like, "They're struggling, girl. They're struggling." And then people would be like, oh, I didn't think they were struggling. I was like, do you not think any of these brands that are stuck in London, who we have Brexit, where our fabrics are costing 3 times as much as those that are producing in Italy, are struggling? Like, Stefan Cook might be going.
Yeah, I've said them, like, even one time on a stream I said that Craig Green was in financial difficulties, and they're like, how do you know? And obviously I couldn't say at the time, but like literally their like atelier was literally across the corner from my house.
Yeah,
like literally.
Well,
it was very close to one DLR station. Yeah, it was very close to one DLR station, but I won't tell you which station.
Lol.
Which DLR station, darling?
Yeah, Finn would know.
No, but yeah, there's a lot of brands that are like, they're just not going to survive, guys. Right now,
it is a bit like survival of the fittest right now.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Vampire's wife. Sorry, I know we're not talking about Balenciaga, sorry, but Vampire's wife, who sell to middle-aged white Chelsea women.
Yeah.
Right. That has just shut down. They were doing so well internally, and the reason why they didn't is because they had 2 bad wholesale seasons, and it crushed their business. And they were looking at more growth this year. To that point.
Wow.
Right. And if they're the ones that are selling to people that have money, right? People like, I'm going to use Stefan Cook because I know they're struggling. Stefan Cook couldn't even afford to produce a show. They had to do the Mulberry collaboration to afford the fabrics to do the clothes. Because they don't have any backing. And then they couldn't afford to stage a show, so they did it at the Mulberry showroom.
Yeah.
Like, these brands, man. Like, people don't understand, like, a bad wholesale season is killing these brands. People like Balenciaga, if it's backed by Kering tomorrow, whatever, like, it gives you that stability of, like one of the stakeholders says, oh, get rid of that designer, because they can. And then they bring in something new and it creates hype. But these independent brands are, like, actually gone, like, in the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's facts. I try. Do I try? I in a way sometimes don't want to say no. Don't want to say like who it is, like who does what, just in case. Because I don't want to get hit with like some crazy lawsuit or something.
Yeah, but you work for a magazine. There's a difference. Like,
exactly. That's why I can't really say it.
Don't hire me. It's fine.
Because like Aaron is saying, yeah, Finn can do what I can't do, because I'm not sure if I can actually say.
And also, people that work at magazines, they think they're the shit stirrers. It's not. It's people like me who work in the marketing and it's like, I don't care.
The pot
is out. See me at the perfect magazine launch.
So, Wild and Lethal Treasure. To be honest, when you work in the industry, I'll just put it this way: when you work in the industry, like, I have friends almost at every single brand. So if I need insight at any brand, you just know, because you have friends that all work there. But obviously I can't really say. Finn can, so that's why we need Finn on the streams. Because because a lot of and some of my information is like off the record, and as a journalist, to be fair, integrity wise, if I mention something publicly that someone has told me in confidence off the record, then that's like,
you're fucked.
Your integrity in the dustbin, and you'll never get an interview with that person again. This YouTube channel runs on your support. If you want to support the channel, you can subscribe to my Patreon. You'll gain access to exclusive content that includes everything from my Patreon podcast, where I give a behind-the-scenes insight into the fashion industry, as well as a fashion book club, where I review my favorite fashion books. You can also check out my fashion ebook, which highlights the best fashion journalists to follow, definitions of common fashion terminology, and how to determine what a good source of fashion information is. The links to everything are in the description below.